Well, friends, the month is September, and I have decided that we should continue a series that we kind of started a few months ago. A few months ago, I ended up ranking all rides and attractions that I have been on at Disneyland and Disney's California Adventure. And since I've been to Disney World one time in 2019, I decided that we should be ranking all rides and attractions that I got to go on when I was at those parks. So the entire month of September will be devoted to this. Now, there should already be a D23 video of me recapping it and my thoughts on it all, or it should be coming out. I don't know when this video is coming out, so I have no idea the schedule, but aside from the D23 video, there should be just this series each and every single Sunday. And don't you worry, next month is going to be an absolute blast. I'm preparing for a lot of fun and a lot of spooky stuff for spooky season. You know, October, Halloween, we're going to have a blast. But as for this month, we're going to be diving into each of the 4 Disney parks at Disney World. And sure, some of the episodes are going to be very short, and some of them are going to be a little bit longer, like today's episode. So let's get into it. Deciding the worst ride at Walt Disney World is definitely a challenge, especially at the Magic Kingdom, because this park is sadly, in my mind, plagued by a lot of mediocre rides. I think Magic Kingdom is honestly the weakest park at Disney World. I know that's a very hot take, but as somebody who comes from Disneyland, it feels like a copy and paste to Disneyland, which I understand, but I just feel like it's a little bit weak. There's a fair amount of amazing rides here, but there's a lot of recycled rides, and one of those is Astro Orbiter. I've never really enjoyed this ride, and Disney World doesn't make it any more special. Now, unlike our last ride, Dumbo is indeed a classic, but this ride is very recycled. The only thing that's cool and interesting is when they did New Fantasyland about 10 years ago, they had 2 Dumbos, and still there as 2 whole Dumbo rides. Dumbo's just never really been my thing, which explains number 18. The third and final ride that kind of just spins around is the magic carpets at Aladdin, his magical carpet ride. It's just not my thing. You know, I don't really care for these rides that just spin in a big circle. The theming on this one at least is there and nice, and that's great, but it's the magic carpets of Aladdin. It's not really my cup of tea. At least there is new theming and it's original, but it also kind of feels unnecessary. Space Ranger Spin is slightly different than the ride at Disneyland known as Astro Blasters. Ranger Spin features a prehistoric scene and a few other slight differences, but functionally is the exact same as Blasters, and at the end of the day, I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it's just very worn down and needs a new theme, maybe like a completely new theme, like, I don't know, a Stitch ride in here or something. Maybe just redo the track or something. I will say though, here at Disney World, it feels like the maintenance has been better to a degree, which is good, but not by a long shot. The Mad Tea Party is the Mad Tea Party. I mean, I've already talked about it in my Disneyland video, and here I think it's actually a little bit less cooler, because at least in Disneyland, you have Alice in Wonderland right next to it, so it creates an interesting atmosphere, and here it's not. There's no Alice in Wonderland, so it kind of takes away from that atmosphere that I grew up with. Now, as I stated in my Disneyland video, this ride is very sadly not great at the Magic Kingdom, and that of course is Small World, which to me, Small World isn't even that amazing. It's not that awesome. I think it's a classic. I can appreciate it for what it is and what it was and the history behind it with the World's Fair, but at the Magic Kingdom, I feel like it's actually reduced in quality due to that poor exterior. And the large grand building that I know and love from Disneyland, it's not there, and it doesn't add that same magic. So I think that it's just okay. The exterior very much so does diminish this ride in my eyes. Now, this is where we actually depart from, in my opinion, the just okay rides and attractions to the good and great stuff. When I did the PhilharMagic, I really had no idea what to expect. And, of course, I've been on Muppet Vision 3D once as a kid, which, 3D show, but this is a very different show. And this is actually a really cool show. It's cool, but it's not all that super special to me. It's not nearly as compelling as Muppet Vision 3D, but it is nice to see Donald on this journey. It's cool, it's funny, it has its like good moments. I love Donald, so it's fun enough, and it's at number 14, and it made the transition from okay to good. To say the Tomorrowland Speedway is a bad ride is valid in some regards. Listen, I understand if you do not like this ride, you absolutely hate and loathe this ride. I actually do understand. But if you're a fan of sports like NASCAR and just racing, mostly NASCAR, if you are a fan of cars themselves, the smell of gasoline, the loud engines the sounds of the loud engines is what I'm trying to say, then you'll actually really love this ride. If you like the atmospheric part of Autopia, you probably won't care for this. I rode it once, and it's cool, it's unique, it's nothing that I've ever seen at a Disney park, and really at any other theme park, except for maybe like very, very, very low tier theme parks that act more so as an arcade and have like that go-kart ride there, like your local, I don't know, mini golf course that has a go-kart track there for some reason. That's what this feels like, but Disney did it, and they had more room to make a better environment, which is great. Number 12, this is the first ride I ever got on at Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom, and that is the Barnstormer. And I got on it in rainy weather. Look, the Barnstormer is cool. It's imagining if you had Goofy Sky School and Gadget's Go Coaster, and then boom, you have the Barnstormer. And it's a small, simple, unique ride. It's fun. It's fun. I got to ride it, I think, like two times in a row, and it was fun. It was exciting. Now, technically, I did experience this at Disneyland, but for some reason, I did not rank this, and I don't know if they still have that overhaul of this attraction, but going with the original Tiki Room and the one that I had been on that has not changed really all that much at all. I know Disney World changed their Tiki Room for a little bit of time, but I think they actually reverted it. Look, the Tiki Room is great. The Tiki Room is fun, it's entertaining, there's vibrant color, there's AC, there's fun songs. It's a great, great time. Great time. Now, as we enter the top 10, I have really, really mixed opinions on this particular ride. Peter Pan, in my mind, is a bit overrated, but at Disney World, they do use the Omnimover system, which makes this ride a lot better because the wait is shortened. Now, I understand the people that say that this ride maybe lacks the imaginative, insightful imagination of the original. At Disneyland, they feel like the Disneyland one is a lot more, I guess, old Fantasyland, and this one feels too modernized. And I kind of get that, but I feel like you have to be a big Disneyland local to have that feeling. And I enjoyed this just fine. I didn't have really any problems with it. It's fun. I like the movie Peter Pan. I've never thought that the ride is that amazing as people say. It's good, but not that amazing. So it's a good enough ride. Now, unlike Peter Pan, I believe that Winnie the Pooh at Disney World is an insane improvement on what Disneyland has, and that's saying a lot because the Winnie the Pooh ride over there is amazing. You see, Winnie the Pooh at Disney World is quite the controversial one. Mr. Toad was replaced by Pooh Bear way back when and started a lot of different protests, and I think Disney knows to never get rid of Mr. Toad at Disneyland because that would never go over well. However, I will say that Winnie the Pooh is great. It's interesting because the queues at Disney World are far more interactive than the queues at Disneyland, and they use a lot of interesting screen technology, little playground elements, a lot of stuff to like immerse you in the world of Pooh. and then it's in a storybook fashion on the ride, which is really nice and really is great. I think it's great. I love Winnie the Pooh. Great ride here. Now, I do love the Jungle Cruise wherever it is, and at Disney World, in some ways, the ride is better with some new show scenes, but Jungle Cruise at Disney World does not have any rides nearby that really enhance the story. At Disneyland, the Temple of the Forbidden Eye is there, and it kind of builds a grander story. Of course, it does add in like a joke for the skippers to make. They can make any joke really about the temple and Indy, which is fun, but I feel like at Disneyland, it actually feels more jungle-like, which is kind of weird because at Disney World, I feel like they should have had more immersive land and everything. Now, however, like I said, some of these new show scenes do actually excel this ride, and once you get in there, it feels like what the Jungle Cruise should feel like. And actually, it kind of feels like what that movie aims for as the Disney World version a little bit, which is pretty cool. And of course, at the end of the day, you know, the Jungle Cruise can't really miss. I mean, it's number 8, so it's a great ride. Now, interestingly enough, The Little Mermaid is far better at Disney World than at Disney's California Adventure. This is a lesson of how a big difference in the queue can make a Disney ride at a Disney theme park all the more enjoyable. Now, at Disneyland's California Adventure, you have an interesting exterior that feels more like a museum or maybe like an aquarium. I'm not really sure what that is supposed to be, but at Disney World, you have this grand, large ocean caverns, like these caves, and it feels like you're about to get on a pirate ride, not the Little Mermaid of all things. And let me tell you, the queue, the beautiful water in the queue, or the exterior outside, and the lighting is amazing. I got on this ride at night, and seeing the exterior at night is beautiful. The ride itself is basically the exact same thing, but hey, it's great. Oh, where do I begin with the disappointment I experienced with Pirates? Going from number 1 to number 6 on a list is really sad to see, because I put this at number 1 at Disneyland. I believe that their Pirates is superior, but let me tell you why I was so disappointed with the ride. Now, I had a lot of high hopes and a lot of a higher opinion with the Disneyland Classic and what this should be at Disney World. Pirates at Disney World, though, when I look back on it, is great, but my initial perception of this ride has really soured this thing for me. Now, let's talk about the good. The queue itself is an insane improvement. This is the greatest queues, like one of the greatest queues in all of the Disney parks. Top 10 easily, maybe even top 5. Because it really does immerse you in this new, fun story about this fort. However, the ride itself is somewhat good because it's longer, but there's also less immersive building, I think, when you immediately get on the ride. A lot of the world building is in the queue, which is kind of cool, but then once you get to the docking area, I feel like it kind of lacks. Now, there are a lot less drops in this ride. It's more cruising through Pirates, which I know is a large part of the original, but also those drops made it very fun. I will say that the Spanish Fortress is built at the beginning of the ride, but it's not really a huge thing throughout the ride, which I found to be very disappointing. I would have thought that it'd be cool to enter a Spanish Fortress or exit one at the very end of the ride or something like that. And you kind of just float into the caverns. You kind of take the same exact thing, but I don't know. It's a little bit lackluster of world building and getting into those caverns, and the drops, and the fact that they did not utilize that Spanish Fortress. I thought it was sad. Now, at the end of the day, I think the ride is fine at best. I still do believe that there's solid things in this ride. I think that there's some good to be discussed, some bad to be discussed, and there's a fair enough argument to be made, or at least fair enough to be talked about which one is actually better And I could see both sides of the story, but for me, as somebody who was a local Californian who, went to Disneyland a lot, the Disneyland version is much better. Now, as we enter the top 5, I have another disappointment, but less disappointing. When I got to Disney World, I was excited to get on the Haunted Mansion, and honestly, it's great, but it is slightly disappointing. The thing is, the exterior is very dark and gothic, which I think fits very, very well, but the ride itself sort of feels less, but better, which is kind of weird. The new scenes are okay with the library and the stairs. They aren't really a huge spectacle, at least the library one is better. And the fact that the Hatbox Ghost isn't there is a little bit saddening to me. And I understand the Hatbox Ghost was a very old animatronic that didn't really work quite well and was like added in 2017 or something like that. I understand that. But the mansion at Disney World feels a little bit less fun, and some of the effects that they have, particularly with the hitchhiking ghosts, that they just don't really feel all that well. But you know what? It is a cool ride, and when I actually got on this ride, I actually got to see some behind the scenes stuff, which was really, really cool, which I really, really enjoyed. But this is an okay enough one. I think a big thing also is it's a really strangely placed ride. You don't have New Orleans and it doesn't really fit into anything. But then again, now I don't know if the mansion at Disneyland really fits that Tiana's Bayou setting and everything like that. I have no idea. But then again, Tiana's Bayou is New Orleans, so that kind of fits the whole thing. And at Disney World, it's just like Gothic Mansion is here next to a river, which is a bit strange to me. Now, Big Thunder Mountain is always an amazing ride to get on, and at Disney World, it is slightly different. I will say one thing that does diminish the ride a little bit is that we do not have the Sweet Town and the treacles of the Rainbow Caverns here, but then again, I mean, what was I expecting, That's a staple of Disneyland and Disneyland history, so it does not kill this ride. I will say a massive, massive, massive improvement is the queue. The queue has story development that really doesn't need to be there, but works well and is entertaining, and I think it's really great to see. Now, as we enter the top 3, we have one of the coolest and most unique rides in my mind, the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Now, the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is a blast. It's a light, smooth roller coaster with a show scene when you go in the mines, and it has the catchy song from Snow White. It has some Easter eggs. It's great. I actually prefer this over the Snow White Dark ride because, first of all, it's a thrill ride. Second of all, the show scene for the mines is done 100 times better in this ride than in the Dark ride, which is really, really cool. 10 out of 10 ride, but our next 2 are just too good. Now, I want to say that this was the hardest ride to rank. As a big, big fan of Offhand Disney, a great YouTuber out there, I wanted to place this one at number 1, but I personally enjoy number 1 more than this for a very big reason. Nonetheless, this ride and the number 1 spot are very neck and neck, very much so could be interchangeable depending on the day. And this is the People Mover, which is honestly one of the greatest rides you will ever get on in your entire life. And it's so weird to say that because the ride itself is like a 10, maybe 15, maybe 20-minute ride where you just sit in a slow moving car and you're just taken through some show buildings, mostly darker buildings. You get to see some beautiful sights. You don't really do a whole lot, but it's so relaxing and smooth and soothing. It's the type of ride that you could literally get your work done on. You could make a podcast on this ride. Like, it's that calming and nice, and the music is good. Like, it's just so good. Why on earth does Disneyland not have this? I don't know. But hey, at least I'm closer to Florida, so I could easily go to, well, not so easily, but go to Disney World just to get on the People Mover. It's honestly amazing. I think people should get on it more and more and more. I have heard in recent years that there's actually become a wait time for the People Mover, which is kind of cool because that means more people get on it. we have my favorite ride of Disney World. We have the Space Mountain. Now, I want to say something is that Space Mountain has always been a favorite of mine. At Disneyland, I used to love and cherish it. However, after getting on this version, Disneyland has a very less superior. Now, I love sci-fi, I love space, I love roller coasters, so of course it'd be my favorite. But the Disney World Space Mountain makes it a very rough and tough ride. It feels like the Matterhorn bobsleds, and unlike Disneyland's version, you don't have so many constellations. It's very dark, you just have little stars in there. You don't have massive show screens. It's very dark and scary at times. You have epic music, and it's just fun. You're in the pure darkness of space. You don't know which way your car is gonna go. You're actually sitting in a bobsled-like vehicle, just like the Matterhorn bobsleds, and it's very rough on you, but it is very, very fun. I absolutely love this. And also, I have to say, the queue is very interesting, especially the exiting queue really builds and is very amazing to see. This is my favorite Disney World Magic Kingdom ride. All Disney World rides, I'm not sure. It would be top 3 though. Like, that's how amazing it is. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. Come back next week for my Epcot ranking, which I'm sure you guys will not want to miss. With that being said, peace out and have a nice day.